Asia's beauty has always attracted millions of travelers, but what happens when tourism suddenly disappears? In 2025, some nations are struggling to keep their economies alive. In this video, we talk about the 7 Asian countries about to collapse after tourism crisis in 2025 and explain the real reasons behind this. And now, let's dive in. Number 7. Maldives. The Maldives, often called paradise on earth, is now showing signs of breaking apart because of the tourism crisis. This island nation depends almost entirely on visitors, and when the flow of tourists slowed down, the entire system started falling. Why would fewer tourists cause a possible collapse? The answer is that almost 70% of the country's earnings come from tourism. So when beaches and resorts are empty, the government has little money to run services, pay debts, or support jobs. Hotels are shutting down, flights are being cut, and locals who once worked in resorts are losing their only income. The government borrowed billions to build luxury resorts and airports, but now it cannot pay them back, creating fears of bankruptcy. Rising sea levels add more pressure because repairing islands and facilities costs money that simply isn't there anymore. Small businesses like diving schools, souvenir shops, and food stalls are closing one by one, turning once busy islands into ghost towns. Families are leaving for other countries to survive, leaving villages half empty. In 2025, the Maldives faces the harsh truth. Without tourism, the nation has no strong foundation, and collapse may arrive faster than anyone expected. Oh, before we go to the next country, comment down below where you are watching. We love to know where you are from. And now, let's go to the next country. Number 6. Cambodia. Cambodia, home to the world-famous Angkor Wat, was once a booming stop for millions of travelers. But in 2025, the fall in tourism is pushing the country to the edge. Why would a decline in visitors threaten collapse in Cambodia? The answer is that the nation relies heavily on entry tickets, hotel stays, and tour packages to keep its economy alive. And now that money has dried up. Angkor Wat alone used to bring in over half of Cambodia's tourism income, but with fewer flights and rising costs, foreign arrivals have dropped sharply. Hotels in Siem Reap are closing, tuk-tuk drivers are leaving the streets, and restaurants once filled with backpackers now sit empty. Without that steady stream of visitors, thousands of families are losing their only income. The problem does not stop there. The Cambodian government used tourism taxes to fund local projects, and now schools, hospitals, and roads are facing budget cuts. Debt from building airports and new resorts is also piling up with no money to pay it back. What was once Cambodia's golden ticket is now a heavy burden, and if the decline continues, the country could face a collapse far greater than anyone imagined. Number 5. Nepal. Nepal is famous for the Himalayas and Mount Everest, but in 2025, the country is close to falling apart because tourists are no longer coming in the same numbers. Why would fewer climbers and hikers put Nepal at risk of collapse? The answer is that tourism gives jobs to thousands of guides, porters, and hotel workers. So when visitors stay away, families lose the only money they depend on. For years, the dream of climbing Everest or trekking the Annapurna Trail brought in billions. But now, with fewer flights, higher travel costs, and safety concerns, the flow of travelers has slowed down. Villages that once welcomed climbers are struggling to survive, and many shops and lodges are closing. The government also earns huge fees from climbing permits, and without that income, there is less money for roads, schools, and hospitals. Debt from building new airports and hotels is getting harder to pay back, adding more pressure. Even the younger generation, who hope to work in tourism, are leaving Nepal to find jobs abroad. The country's future feels uncertain, and without tourism, Nepal is standing on weak ground that could lead to collapse. Wait! If you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. And now, let's go to the next country. Number 4. Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, known for its beaches, temples, and tea plantations, is one of the Asian countries that may collapse after the tourism crisis. The island has faced many problems in the past, but in 2025, the drop in visitors is shaking its fragile economy even more. Why would fewer tourists have such a big effect on Sri Lanka? The answer is that tourism is one of its main sources of income, and when that money disappears, the country struggles to pay debts, run services, and create jobs. For years, tourism helped rebuild Sri Lanka after civil war and natural disasters. Hotels filled up, local shops earned well, and drivers had steady work. But now, empty resorts and fewer flights are hurting both businesses and workers. Families who depended on foreign travelers are losing their savings, and many are falling back into poverty. The government is also under heavy pressure. Much of its income came from tourist taxes and spending, but now it has little money for fuel, food imports, and basic needs. This leads to higher prices, angry citizens, and protests. Without tourists, even the smallest villages that survived on selling crafts or guiding tours are becoming ghost towns. In 2025, Sri Lanka is showing how quickly a nation can fall when its lifeline is cut. Tourism was once its hope, but now its collapse is leaving the country weak and unstable, with no clear way forward. If the decline continues, Sri Lanka may face an even deeper crisis that could shake its future for decades. Number 3. Thailand. Thailand has always been one of the most visited countries in Asia, with its beaches, street food, and lively cities drawing millions of travelers every year. But in 2025, the sharp decline in visitors is creating a serious risk of collapse. Why would fewer tourists be so damaging to Thailand? The answer is that tourism makes up a big part of its economy, and when the crowds disappear, everything from hotels to food stalls suffers. Bangkok, Phuket, and Chiang Mai once thrived on non-stop arrivals, but now hotels are closing, airlines are cutting flights, and night markets that once buzzed with energy are half empty. This leaves thousands of workers without jobs, from tour guides to small shop owners. Many families that lived on daily earnings from tourists are now struggling just to survive. The government is also feeling the pressure. Thailand relied heavily on tourism taxes to support its budget, and the loss of that money has slowed projects, reduced services, and increased debt. Inflation makes matters worse, as locals face higher prices while their incomes shrink. Even cultural areas like temples and festivals are being hurt, since fewer foreign visitors means less funding to preserve traditions. In 2025, Thailand's bright image as a top travel spot is fading, and without tourists, its economy could weaken to the point of collapse. If the crisis continues, Thailand may lose not only jobs and income, but also the cultural treasures and global reputation that once made it shine. Number 2. Indonesia. Indonesia is the largest archipelago in Asia, with Bali as its crown jewel for tourism. For years, Bali alone welcomed millions of travelers, bringing in billions of dollars that fueled hotels, restaurants, and local businesses. But in 2025, the tourism crisis has put Indonesia in danger of collapse. Why would fewer visitors create such a deep problem in such a large country? The answer is that entire regions, especially Bali, Lombok, and Yogyakarta, rely almost completely on foreign travelers, and without them, their economies fall apart. In Bali, resorts are closing, beaches are quiet, and airport traffic has dropped. Small businesses such as surf schools, scooter rentals, and street markets that depended on foreign spending are now empty. Workers who once earned daily wages from tourism have lost their jobs, and families are slipping into poverty. Even rice farmers and fishermen are affected, since they once supplied hotels and restaurants that are no longer buying. The Indonesian government is also facing a major problem. Billions were invested in airports, highways, and tourism projects that now bring in little return. Debt is piling up, and without tourism income, the government is struggling to pay it back. Inflation has pushed the cost of food and fuel higher, adding more pain to ordinary citizens. Another risk is social unrest. Villages that thrived on visitors are now desperate, and protests over lost jobs are spreading. Indonesia once promoted itself as a global travel hotspot, but in 2025, that image is fading fast. Leaders are worried that if tourists do not return soon, collapse will not only hit local families, but also the entire national economy. For Indonesia, tourism was more than just visitors. It was survival, and without it, the nation is walking on thin ice. If the tourism crisis continues, more young Indonesians will leave tourist towns for crowded cities, causing bigger problems like unemployment and rising crime. Investors are also abandoning hotel projects, leaving behind empty buildings that symbolize failure. Without new industries or revived tourism, Indonesia may face its hardest economic fight in modern history. Number 1. Philippines. The Philippines has always been one of Asia's favorite tourist spots, known for its white sand beaches, friendly people, and colorful festivals. But in 2025, the tourism crisis is hitting the Philippines harder than most countries. Tourism once brought billions of dollars each year and supported millions of workers. But now, the industry is shrinking fast. Why does this create such a huge risk for the country? The answer is simple. Millions of families depend on jobs from hotels, restaurants, resorts, and transport services. And without tourists, those jobs vanish. Boracay, Palawan, and Cebu, once filled with visitors, now show signs of slowdown. Hotels are closing their doors, travel agencies are shutting down, and even small businesses like food stalls and souvenir shops are empty. Families who once earned steady income from tourists are struggling to survive, and poverty is spreading faster in many provinces. Fishermen and farmers who supplied resorts are also affected, proving that the crisis is not only about tourism, but about the entire economy. The Philippine government invested heavily in airports, roads, and tourism campaigns to attract visitors, but those investments now give little return. Debt from these projects is piling up, and the lack of income makes it harder to recover. Inflation is also making food and fuel more expensive, putting more pressure on struggling families. Communities that depended almost completely on foreign visitors are now at risk of collapse. The biggest fear is long-term damage. If fewer tourists return, international airlines may cut flights, investors may cancel resort projects, and workers may leave the country to search for jobs abroad. The Philippines could lose not only money, but also its global reputation as a safe and exciting destination. Without urgent solutions, the crisis may trigger higher unemployment, rising crime, and deeper poverty. The Philippines once thrived as one of Asia's brightest tourism stars, but in 2025, it stands at the edge of collapse. The survival of millions depends on whether the country can rebuild its tourism or create strong alternatives before it's too late. This could be the toughest challenge the Philippines has ever faced. Thanks for watching. Before you go, make sure to like, subscribe, and smash the notification bell. Which of these countries do you think will completely break ties with the US? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading and replying to as many as possible.